everybody, Gina DeLuca here. All right, today I am working with a few new products, so we will see what happens. This is going to be a true experiment. I have been away for a couple of weeks. I lost my cat Bigsby. That was very, very sad, and then I went to Ohio to see the eclipse. That was very cool. I got to do some very cool things while I was there, and it really kind of helped me to get out of the funk that I was in. So I'm back at it. Here I am, ready to experiment and make some messes. So today I have, for my base coat slash background color, this is a mix of Liquitex Basics Titanium White and Raw Sienna by Basics and Mars Brown by Arteza. So that is a blend of those three colors. This color is TriArt Quinacridone Violet, and my goodness gracious, is that a really amazing bright color. And I'm excited to see how these paints react, what they do, how they dry. But it is a very liquidy paint, and you don't need a whole lot of it. And this has Floetrol in it. It also has the TriArt modeling paste matte. So bear with me, we're experimenting here. So I added this very liquidy paint to the modeling paste, and I created a thicker kind of paint, basically like a tube paint consistency. And then I added Floetrol to that. These three paints here are this Little Piggy Pigments, and I should do it in the order here. So this purple color is Majesty, and the magenta-ish color is Persephone, and this is a very, very bright pigment, but this also has the modeling paste and the Floetrol added to it, so it kind of saps some of that color out of it until it dries. Those products will dry clear, and so this little milky color that it has now will disappear, and you will just be left with that beautiful pigment. This one is Bloodstone. It's a very rich brown, beautiful rich brown. And this one here is the DecoArt Americana Decor Matte Metallics in Aged Bronze. The pigments, how I mix the pigments. First step, put on a mask. Do not skip that step, ever, 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 ever. Cannot stress it enough. Those pigments, no matter how careful you are, little bits of it get up into the air. If you have studio lights, you can see it very easily, how it winds up being airborne. And if you don't have on a mask, you will inhale that. And once you inhale that, it can get stuck in the little nooks and crannies of your lungs, and it's not coming out. That is really not good for you. So put on a mask. Then I put some of the Josonja gloss varnish, just enough to cover the bottom of my cup. I add some of the pigment. I get that mixed together carefully so you don't wind up with a dust cloud. And then I added the modeling paste to that to thicken it up, again, to a tube paint consistency. And then I added Floetrol to that. So this is basically 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol. Yeah, that's about right. And then I added some water to it to thin it out. It is really difficult for me to give you the ratios on these other paints. I eyeball things, and you know, some of them kind of felt like they needed a bit more. This purple, I felt like it needed a bit more of the modeling paste. Don't know why. Don't know why different pigments might feel a little thicker or thinner than others. That's how it felt to me, so I added a bit more to that. Sometimes you just kind of have to go with the flow and see what happens. So those are the paints we're working with. That's what we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. We're going to have some fun. Don't know how these paints will react together. Don't know if I'll get cells or if I'll just get a pretty pattern. We're going to find out. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute. But if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you the exact paint brand, color, consistency, the recipe, the technique, of course, all of the things that you need to know, but I can't fit on a card. So this is the number of that video. This here is the painting that I did in that video. This box contains a tip for this particular technique, and here at the bottom you have the color palette that was used in this painting. And these two boxes can be used together as the basis of a two-color palette. You can just use those two colors. You can build off of those two colors. And there are 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. Use all of the colors or just some of the colors. Mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. Oh, the first thing I'm going to do is put some paint in a cup. I got in my head for a second and forgot that I was filming, and I'm supposed to tell you what I'm doing. So I put about 2 ounces in that cup. Now I'm going to lay down my base coat. You'll notice that my sides are already covered. What is that? The reason for that is when I mix for a straight pour, which is essentially what this is going to be, I mix pretty thin. I don't think I showed you the consistency. Okay, I'll have to do that. I'm off my game. It's been a while. I'm rusty. Bear with me. This will be a 2 on my consistency scale, which I will show you how thick that is in just a moment. But you'll notice that I do cover my edges first, and so I mix this pretty thin, and I'm using Floetrol. The combination of things, sometimes you don't get the best coverage on the side, and the canvas might show through a little bit. So if I cover my edges first, I don't have to worry about touching it up later. That is especially helpful when I am using a custom blended color as I am today. If I were to try to come back and match that color, it would be a challenge. It can be done, just requires more work than I want to do, so I just take the 90 seconds that it takes to cover those edges ahead of time. I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. For those of you who are using your Gina DeLuca bingo cards, you can go ahead and check that one off. That might be a free space. But the reason we are laying down a base coat is because we want the paint to slide around evenly. And something has to stick to the canvas first. I'm going to torch these bubbles. If it is not your base coat, it will be your poured paint. And so what happens is the edge of your puddle is what's going to stick to the canvas first, and then the paints on the middle are going to roll over top of that. And sometimes the coolest things happen on the edge, and you know, you want to maximize all of your possibilities. Just easier to lay down the base coat first. And then you don't have to worry about why I'm popping these bubbles now. If I don't pop them now, they will pop up through my pour later. And they can cause little teeny tiny cells, but that is also why I use a color that is in my painting. I'm not using just white because I have no white in the rest of the painting, and if I had little tiny white cells popping up, then I would have to go back and do something with those. So, because it would drive me crazy. The consistency that we are working with. This is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It is making a mound, but it disappears quickly. That's what we're looking for. It's making a nice, thin, even stream off of the stick. It's not getting thick and thin and thick and thin. That means your consistency is inconsistent and you need to mix some more. So I'm not going to be using all of these paints in this cup. This only needs to be 8 ounces. Okay, going to do this brown now. Always check your consistency before pouring. The sauce may thicken upon standing. I say that to remind myself just as much as I do to remind you. This color is amazing. It is so, so vibrant. Really excited to see this in a pour. Okay, but I will be using all of this DecoArt. This is my cell maker. So I'm going to pour this from up high, let it sink, let it churn, let it do what it's gonna do. Sometimes it attaches to other colors and you get some groovy things going on. And I think I'm going to add a bit more of this vibrant, super vibrant color. That is the Quinacridone Violet. Okay, so now I have some of my base paint left here, and I'm just going to come over top of all of these other colors, reserving a bit in my cup just in case I need something a little later. Okay, so I'm going to try something crazy today. I'm going to kind of do a spiral pour, but I'm going to be changing directions, and I'm going to see if that gives me a petal-like effect. We'll see. So I'm going to try to be in the center while I'm doing this. And I'm trying to do about 1.5 turns. I feel like I've gone way off center here. The colors are pretty. We'll see what the pattern winds up looking like. It is endlessly fascinating to me how you load the cup makes a difference. How you hold the cup makes a difference. There are so many factors that go into what kind of pattern you end up with that it really kind of feels like you would never have a reason to stop experimenting, because you could just keep doing it forever and never come up with all of the possibilities, because each paint reacts differently. The paints react differently to each other. And sometimes you think you know what a paint's going to do, but you really don't. They surprise you all the time. And I feel like this canvas might be warped. I could be wrong, but it is really kind of doing something weird here. The way this is spreading out doesn't feel right to me. Where's my little tool? You'll do. I'm going to fix my center here. This is not my usual tool. This is my glue tool. But sometimes we have to improvise. Okay. Going to pop the bubbles. There are a lot of bubbles. This technique creates a lot of bubbles, but sometimes that works to your benefit, because when you have a matte paint with a glossy paint, it creates cells. The matte paints push away the glossy paints, and it gives you a cell. And it has a hydrophobic effect. The matte paints have a hydrophobic effect. So what you hope for is you get these little cells that pop up. They have the matte paints attached to it, and then it pushes away the glossy paints. And as they sit, the cells can grow and get bigger. I'm not seeing a whole lot of cell action. It was an older jar of paint, so that can be a thing. That can be a factor. I think this canvas is warped. Something weird with this canvas. I had a hard time leveling it. It doesn't appear to be warped, but it sure is acting to be warped. Well, I mean, regardless of, you know, it's not really looking too flower petally, but the colors are very, very, very pretty together. And I did want to save some of these colors for another idea for a painting that I have, so I mixed up a bit extra. Yeah, not totally loving how the pattern came out. It's not exactly what I was going for. But, you know, that's what experiments are for. So if I pop these bubbles now and I get these little cells, when I stretch this out, those cells will stretch. So if I were to spin this out now and then pop the bubbles, then I might only get these little tiny little cells. But if I pop them now and I have these little tiny cells, when I stretch this out, a lot of this is going to get spun off, and I will be stretching out this center quite a bit. The center is looking pretty, which is good because it's going to be a focal point. The center is looking nice and rosy, though oblong. So when I do a straight pour, sometimes, you know, I let this sit for like 5 to 7 minutes and allow the cells to develop, because as it sits, the bubbles are coming to the top, and you'll see them, you know, just like cake batter. When you let it sit for a little bit, you see the bubbles come to the top, and then you do smack it on the counter and pop bubbles, but you don't really want to be smacking your paint around, so we use a torch to get rid of the bubbles, which give us cells. So, all right. So one thing that I can do if I wanted to try to even this out, if I wanted to stretch this side of the paint more, I can shift my painting a bit on the spinner in the direction that I want the paint to go. So it's like being on the merry-go-round at the playground. The closer you are to the edge, the more you are getting pulled by the centrifugal force. And I'm going to shift it in this direction. And actually, I'm going to put down a bit more paint to give it the best shot here at spinning off with ease. This is why I like to save a bit. Sometimes the corners can use a little bit of love. And you know, just even this out. And if you notice that there are parts resisting going over the edge easily, do check that your sides have not dried up on you, because that can happen. That's a bummer. So just giving that a bit of a refresher before spinning can help it slide a lot easier. Okay, so let's give this a twirl. Okay. Let's see. That's good, that's good. this is going to have a bit more of a galactic look than, you know, head-on flower look. That's okay. Let me give this a bit of a torch again. I see a bunch of bubbles. I have a bit of paint left in my cup, and I'm going to just do some ribbons here. And then I will spin again, and this will actually blend out nicely. I should say should. There are no guarantees in fluid art. Do want to adjust my focal point a bit. There is some really pretty stuff going on in these blending of the pigments. I'm not sure I want to spin it anymore because I don't want to lose what's going on. I have a little bit of that Quinacridone Violet here and in there, and I don't want to lose that. So I think I'm gonna say this is it. This is what she's gonna be. More cells may pop up. That is the nature of these DecoArt paints. Sometimes as it sits, I mean, I see some small cells in there that are the DecoArt. They will push this tan color away. And we will have more cells. So I'm going to let this sit. I'm gonna let it do what it's gonna do. Actually, just let me give a little love to the corner there. And I will scrape these bottom edges. That is something that is a good thing to do. It helps to keep your paint from pulling off of the canvas. The weight of the drips will pull paint from the sides. So I'm gonna let this sit, and I'm gonna bring you in for a close-up. Back in a few. Okay, here it is. This has been sitting for a bit. You can see the edges have started to dry, and the bling factor is beautiful. The center has a rose-like appearance. Happy with that. And these colors are not showing up the way I would like them to on the camera. But there are some very cool cells, blending of the DecoArt and the pigments. I'm actually looking forward to seeing this dry. I think once this is dried and varnished, this is going to be very, very pretty. I really like these colors together. I'm glad I have enough for another because I definitely want to do another with these colors. So I am going to let this dry a bit more and I will bring you back. Okay, here is the dried piece. I am not in my usual spot because I have all of my work surfaces covered with paintings that I am varnishing for my upcoming auction. Not sure when that's going to be exactly, but there is one coming up, so do keep checking back about that. This is dried. You can see those colors, the bling. Of course, this will bling even more once it's varnished. For those who might be new to this, when you are doing a straight pour, some of it's going to be matte, some of it's going to look a little glossier. The paints that sell are going to be more matte, and so that is what we're seeing here. So when your painting dries and you say, it looks so dull, you have to varnish it. It is the contrast between glossy paints and matte paints that are giving you these cells. There is a new addition to the family. It's taken me a while to finish doing this painting. I think his name is Darwin. Let's, he's very noisy. He's down in his little bag right here. I don't know if he's going to come out. Maybe I should not show him yet and show him in the next video. Oh, there he is. There's the little guy. Satchmo was very lonely, so I had to expedite getting him a baby brother / playmate. He's crazy. He's all over everything. So there he is. Oh, let's show this too, because this is fun. Why not? He's going to be making the noise. You're going to be hearing this in videos, I'm sure. So when you hear that noise, that's what's happening. I think his name's Darwin. I think it's been several days. I still haven't settled on a name. I think it's Darwin. But while we're looking at him, let's talk about, do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. It has been an excruciating month financially, so if you feel like donating to my PayPal, please feel free. Bigsby's vet bills were exorbitant, and this little guy, you know, he's got bills coming up too, and oh my goodness. Paid my taxes, had to replace my windshield. It was all in 1 month. Anyhow, if you feel so inclined, wonderful. If you want to buy a painting, even better. You can use the... He does this for a long time. You can use the affiliate links in the description box below, and I will receive a small commission at no additional cost to you. That is super helpful. You can also find in the description box the link to our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there, post your masterpieces, ask your questions, get some inspiration. Yeah. So, I will be posting more frequently. I have gotten my my studio in order. My mood has improved now that this little guy's in the house. I think y'all know when you do this kind of art, they're kind of like mood rings. If you're not in a great mood, your paintings don't turn out right. That's kind of what's been happening. So hopefully that's turning around. All right. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So again, do keep an eye out for the auction. My credit card bill almost made me cry, and next month is going to be the same. So an auction is overdue. All right, y'all. I hope you have a beautiful day. There's Satchmo. There's Satchmo. All right. I hope you have a beautiful day. Go make some art.